Alright, Dad, you stay here while I'm cooking dinner. Dad, just stay in the car. I gotta go. Just stay in the car, please. Hey, Paul? Yeah, it's John. Yeah, Dad's drunk again. No,
So, Mr. McFarland.
Hi, Mr. Lewis. Sorry I'm late. My dad took me out to lunch. I need breakfast.
In my office.
Yeah, I'm in trouble now. Yeah, will you pick him up? I'll leave the keys in the office. Can you do it like soon? Because I don't know if he's gonna stay. Yeah.
How many shots were there? Three. For a 2-minute sequence, that's kind of unusual, right? What's the story? What's the story of that little sequence? From where the boy arrives with his dad up until where we paused it, what happens? Drives himself to school. Dad is drunk, so he calls his brother to come pick Dad up. Gives directions on where to leave the keys, goes into the office and sits and waits, right? And there's a teacher watching him. Okay, so we can imagine that being scripted in terms of this is the action. And we can imagine another kind of filmmaker going, establishing shot of school, yellow school bus pulls out, we see the jocks, we see the geeks, da-da-da. Off to the side, car pulls up, into altercation between dad and father, shot, reverse shot, cut to, boy arrives, interior, inside the school, altercation with teacher, shot, reverse shot, teacher, boy, blah, blah, blah. But none of that happens, okay? What happens? Very, very simple choice, but very powerful choice. Camera follows one character exclusively, with one tiny exception. But camera follows one boy from an exterior location through into an interior location. Teacher arrives when the boy's talking. Teacher stays in soft focus. Boy turns away from camera, talks to teacher. Focus is still on the boy. These are choices that most of us don't normally make. Boy hangs up, teacher disappears. Follow boy through into what we think is a staff room, but we're not sure because the camera never shows us. Camera stays with boy. Camera stays with boy. Boy goes and sits. Boy does nothing for about 30 seconds. We hear the chatter of the secretary and the school and kids. So we're getting a sense of the world through the soundtrack, but we're staying on boy. And then all of a sudden, bah, a cut, an edit, our third shot, right? Which is this kind of disapproving teacher looking at boy. So I'd say there's a lot going on in the shot lists. Even though the shot list is 3 shots long or 2 shots long, the filmmaker is saying he's not interested in the adults. He's not interested in any of the other characters. He's not interested in the town, in the type of cultural groups of the school. He's only interested in the experience of one boy. So he's immediately directing us to go zhoo, to hone right in, to see the world purely from one person's perspective. So it does 2 things. It makes us become very interested in who this kid is and what he's about and wanting to learn more about him. But it also makes us a little bit uncomfortable. I don't know if you agree. You start asking yourselves, when are we going to break out of the shot? When is the cut coming? When are we going to see the world that we're in? So those two things are very important. What the filmmaker is doing is he's saying, how do I want the audience to feel? I want them to feel like they're closely associated with this kid, but I also want them to feel slightly uncomfortable. And then there's a third thing that I think this shot does for the audience, and you'll understand this when you watch the entire movie, is it uses time in a very specific way. Most movies cut, jump from 10 o'clock in the morning to 12 o'clock, which is, break time, to after school, to da-da-da, this kind of rapid acceleration of time. In this film, time plays out on camera. So you've got these long tracking shots that stay with the same character for very long periods of time. Incidentally, the film jumps from one character to the next. So later we'll meet another kid. We'll spend a couple of minutes with that kid, jumps to another kid, spend another couple of minutes with that kid. And slowly but surely what we realize is happening is it's the same half hour that's playing out over and over again, but we're seeing it from different perspectives. Very interesting film. So by the time the very violent incident happens, there's been this long build-up. You've been watching the same very quiet, very gentle half hour in the life of a school playing out from different perspectives of different characters, so that by the time the violence happens, there's been this delayed sense of build-up. It's a very interesting film to watch in terms of how a story gets told. It's quite an extreme example. Most films, and I'm not suggesting that you guys should necessarily go to these extremes, but what I want you to see is that the director is doing more than just tell the story. He's actually engaging with the audience on all sorts of different levels, asking us to think about this world and about these characters in a very specific way. You don't have to overextend yourself. Making movies is hard enough, so do what is necessary to have a clear communication. Don't get fancy and do stuff that isn't necessary to your process. Location multicam. I would say, trying to think, usually multicam, you always have a principal camera, a main camera, and then your second camera will give you a kind of punch in, or maybe a close-up or a single of what we're in what we're looking at. So I'm going to answer you now, but effectively you're still directing your principal camera, and your second and your third cameras are there to save time. So I'm still, my point of view as a director is still being focused through that A camera, where I choose to set that master, how I choose to cover the scene. I'm still thinking in terms of one camera, and your second and your third camera is there to help save time. So if my master shot, let's say my POV, which is this room, I'm using a nice wide-angle lens, I'm getting everybody in here. That'll be my A camera. My B camera will be right next to it in most cases, and it'll give me the single of the 2 or 3 people that are important in this in the scene. Or it might, my second camera might be roaming to the people who are asking questions or have something to say in the scene. So in answer to your question, I would shot list for A camera, and I would just do technical notes for my B and C camera, which is punch-in close-up of Adam, or cutaway of pen writing, you know what I mean? Those would be the kind of secondary requirements for your B and C camera. I have to say, for filmmakers starting out, it's potentially a huge technical challenge, and it robs you of the opportunity of being creative with your A camera by shooting with multiple cameras. There seems to be a big emphasis in our industry on multicam skills for directors. In my opinion, it robs the director of the most exciting and stimulating part of his job, which is to tell the story using the placement of the camera.